Hello, everybody, and welcome to this new episode of the Deep Penetration Podcast. My name is Danny, and I am a self-esteem and love coach that focuses on the LGBTQ plus community. Even if you're not part of the community, totally fine. I am a huge proponent of education and knowledge. So even you just stopping by and taking a listen is pretty fantastic in my book. Because this is an all-inclusive podcast and channel. So obviously anybody that wants to listen is more than welcome to listen, but a lot of the subject matter and a lot of the topics that will be covered are going to be specific to or geared towards just general relationships, right, in the queer community and self-development and self-esteem and embracing self-identity and all of those types of things. Obviously, you heard right. It is called Deep Penetration, and there are two reasons for that. Number one is because I like to get to the root of stuff, right? I like to try to get a little bit deeper instead of just hovering on the surface when it comes to specific subject matter. And two, just because I like puns. So it was the perfect title for the podcast, at least I thought. I hope you guys find it funny and also to have some meaning. That being said, I wanted to talk about the episode. Well, essentially, the episode today is based off of a conversation that I had with a client not too long ago. And this is something that continually actually comes up, and I've experienced it myself in the dating world, and it has to do with ghosting. And essentially what this client asked was, why do I keep getting ghosted? I do not understand. And it actually kind of threw me in a state of reflection where I was like, I've totally experienced this myself as well. And I feel like I've gone through like the gamut of emotions and thoughts when it came to it, right? Like, is this my fault? Is it something that I'm doing? Is it a way that I'm presenting myself? Am I being overly communicative? Am I too specific with my needs and my like I went through the entire Rolodex of feelings, and I probably totally just aged myself by saying Rolodex, but whatever, we're going to ignore that and keep going. So I had to stop and think to myself, why is it that I have also experienced ghosting in my life as well? And the first thing that I usually tell individuals who come to me and ask why they are experiencing this is, why do you think that it has something to do with you? I think that's a self-perception thing. And for me, if an individual is ghosting you, that's a them problem, not a you problem. Because at the end of the day, that person has the ability to communicate with you and say, hey, look, I appreciate the time that we've spent together, but I just don't feel like there is a connection between us or there is the right chemistry for us to move forward. I hope you find, what you're looking for, and I wish you nothing but the best, right? That would be, even though it sucks because you still feel like you're getting rejected, at least there is clarity around the situation and you have some level of closure. But for individuals who choose to ghost, I think that speaks volumes about where they're at mentally and emotionally and what they are capable of providing at that time when they are dating you, right? So for me, I kind of take that as like a blessing in disguise, where I would hate to invest a ton of time into somebody and get attached to this person and build a connection and then them ghost me later on down the line. So if they ghost you in the beginning, blessing in disguise, as Beyonce likes to say, you dodged a bullet. But it's also happened to people that have been in relationships for an extended period of time and that person just disappears. Either way, I want you to be super clear on this. Is it possible that you may have contributed to the breakdown of the connection or the chemistry or whatever? It's a possibility, sure, because there are two people who are involved here. But the way in which they have decided to handle the situation is out of your control and therefore not your problem. I know that's easier said than done, but in all honesty, it's not you. Right? It's how they have chosen to deal with it. So it probably means that they're more of an avoidant personality type anyways. They don't like confrontation. They don't like to communicate when they're feeling. angry or upset or frustrated or even just not feeling the chemistry, they decide to just pull away. So I think that leads into the compatibility portion, right? It's possible that you guys are just not compatible, and that's okay. That's going to happen in the dating pool, in the dating world, right? There are going to be tons of people that you meet where you may connect on certain levels, maybe on a physical level, maybe on an emotional level, maybe on a mental level. But at the end of the day, if you do not connect enough for the relationship to develop, then it's going to happen. It's okay. There's nothing wrong. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. It's just a matter of connection, chemistry, and compatibility. The other part here is it's possible that maybe there is a level of clinginess or neediness that is present. And I know I've said that, and I literally just said it. It's not your issue and it's not your problem, but we also have to be self-reflective, right? If we find ourselves in a situation that continues to repeat itself, right? It's kind of like this perpetual cycle of meeting somebody, feeling like we're connecting, and then it doesn't work out, or they ghost, or they disappear, or they walk away. At that point, we have to take a step back and say, okay, is there something that I am doing that is contributing to this dynamic? Am I continuing to feed this dynamic? Am I going into every situation doing the same thing, which is resulting in the same thing, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So taking a step back, reflecting, taking some accountability and saying, okay, maybe I'm being a little bit too anxious. Maybe I'm being a little bit too clingy. Maybe I'm being a little bit too demanding of this person in this moment because of my previous dating experiences. So often we have these really shitty dating experiences that leave their mark. And then we step into the next relationship and we kind of drag some of that baggage into the next one because consciously or subconsciously, we want that new person to prove to us that they are not the previous person. But then that's a level of pressure and responsibility that you are putting on that person that they shouldn't have to deal with, that is not theirs to carry. So we inadvertently start to expect a ton from this person, right? And a big part of that is because you probably didn't get closure with the last relationship. So you're seeking that level of closure from the new person that you are in a relationship with. I want you to take a minute and really think about that, right? Because for a lot of people, it's not something that necessarily comes to mind. And we're always trying to figure out why it is that people are walking away or leaving us, or relationships aren't working. And it may have a lot to do with our historical dating patterns. So just food for thought on that one. And that kind of segues into unrealistic expectations, right? A lot of the times when we have unrealistic expectations of somebody, what we do is that we make that person feel like they will never be able to make us happy, that they will never be enough in the relationship. And maybe you've experienced that yourself, right? Maybe it's not you that's doing that. Maybe it's the other people as well that are doing that to you. And if ever in your life you have experienced that, you know that that's not a good feeling. Expectations are necessary. Expectations can be a positive contribution to the relationship because it helps to maintain your sense of self and identity and expressing to your partner what your needs are in order to keep you happy, but in turn also listening to your partner's expectations and trying to, meet them in the middle with those things to make them happy as well. But if you are immediately going into a relationship and you're setting all of these standards and all of these expectations and all of these needs because those things have not been met in your previous relationships, you are creating a punch list that is longer than anybody can actually manage or deal with. So I like to present an exercise to my clients, which is, okay, on a piece of paper, create two columns. One column is going to be what your current expectations and needs are, and the other column is going to be, are they realistic or unrealistic? And I know that that can be very difficult for you to figure out on your own, because for you, those needs and expectations are realistic. That's why they're there. So I challenge you to show that list to somebody that you trust, somebody that you are very close to, maybe a best friend, maybe a family member, and have them also weigh in on your expectations. Because having an outside individual tell you, yeah, no, that doesn't seem right, or that's a little bit too much, or I don't even think I would be able to manage or navigate that. If you're hearing that from somebody that you are very close with and you care about, it's probably going to open up your mind to the possibility of, shit, my expectations might be a little bit too high. And it's better to do that now than when you get into a relationship and you have this massive punch list of things that you expect from your partner. And then when they can't live up to those things, you add more to the punch list because now you've been hurt, now you're frustrated, now you're upset, and you want to ensure that doesn't happen again the next time. So create that list, show it to somebody that you are close with, and see what they have to say. Also, oftentimes people will create a list of expectations, and I will find repeats in those lists. So if you have a list of 10 things, it is likely that that list is really only 3 or 4 things long, but you're just repeating yourself in a different way with the other ones, if that makes sense. So consolidating that list and prioritizing what expectations are the most important to you when you meet somebody, right? Narrow it down to like a top 3 so that at least that's bite size and realistic and something that somebody can probably manage. All that to basically go back and say, ghosting, unfortunately, is just a part of the process of dating. It's just part of the process of getting to know people, because at the end of the day, you're going to meet a lot of different personality types. You're going to meet a lot of people with different attachment styles. And oftentimes the people that are ghosting are the people who are more avoidant. And you are going to find more avoidant people on the market, right? Or out there in the dating pool, because those are the individuals that struggle with commitment. So I don't mean to say that like you don't stand a chance in hell. Every single person that you're going to meet is going to be avoidant. No, that's not true. It's just being consciously aware of those behavioral traits and being able to decipher which ones are red flags and which ones are green flags. So I hope all of that information is helpful. I hope that you got something from that. But again, all of that to say, 95% of the time, if somebody decides to ghost you, that's on them. That is not on you. That is not a you problem. That is the way that they manage and they navigate conflict. And at the end of the day, you don't want to be in a relationship with somebody who does not know how to deal with conflict. So you are probably better off, and that opens the door and the possibilities for you to find that person that you are actually meant to be compatible with. If you enjoyed this episode, if you feel like you connected to the episode in any way, please make sure you are subscribing to the podcast, to the YouTube channel. It is incredibly helpful and I greatly appreciate it. It gives me the opportunity to be able to continue to, share these stories with you and talk about these subjects and these topics openly and candidly. If you have any questions, if you've experienced this before, if you've had a totally different experience with ghosting, please let me know. Leave a comment. I'd love to see what you guys have to say. I love to interact with you guys. Again, I hope you guys are having an incredible day. I hope you're staying happy and healthy, and I will see you guys in the next episode of Deep Penetration.